You're listening to Stephanie and Fox, where we aim to educate, enlighten, and evolve your intimacy.
You can find us at stephanieandfox.com to learn more about counseling, self-study courses, and retreat services that we provide.
This show contains adult content about relationships, intimacy, and sex, and is meant for those 18 years and older.
Now please, sit back, listen up, and get ready to evolve your intimacy. Hey friends, it is your own personal sex therapist, Stephanie from Stephanie and Fox, and I am so excited to be bringing this topic to you today. We are doing this show a little bit different than we've done it in the past. I'm going to do the first half of the show, and then Fox will come on and he's going to do the second half of the show with us, with you guys. So the first half, I really want to talk about infidelity and cheating in relationships, but there's some science about it. So why do people cheat in relationships? There is a new study that might shed some light on this complicated question. You know, cheating is an interesting conversation to have with, people around the water cooler, but it's very difficult to study because people don't want to talk about it. The goal is not to get caught. So why would they freely open up that conversation and put themselves in a situation where they can get caught, right? Well, the first half, like I said, I'll be talking about the science behind cheating and why we cheat and what you can do to protect your relationship from infidelity. The second part of the show will be with Fox, and he's going to tell you how to catch a cheater. I'm going to jump right in and start this conversation, and let's just get it out there because this is not something that's easy to talk about. Infidelity sucks. I see so many clients who are in infidelity recovery at some stage, some point that I'm working with. And it breaks my heart every single time. So really quick, according to Justin LaMiller, people define infidelity in a variety of ways, right? So what counts as cheating in one relationship may not be cheating in another. So for example, people don't consider watching porn as a form of cheating, but about 1 in 10 people do. So whether people count a given behavior as infidelity depends on so many different factors, including their jealous tendencies, religious beliefs, their self-esteem, attitudes towards infidelity, all of that. So as we talk about this and come up with things, you may say to yourself, well, that's not cheating at all, but it could be to somebody else. I have 2 very vast different examples that we'll kind of work throughout the show today. So the study was conducted by Dylan Selterman and his associates, and this study came out in 2020 and was published in the Journal of Sexual and Marital Health. Yes, there is a scientific journal for sex. It's a scientific thing. So anyway, this study included about 500 people, and 87% of them identified as heterosexual. Today, we're going to be talking about both monogamous relationships, consensual non-monogamous relationships, gays, straight, lesbian, queer, any kind of relationship. My definition of relationship in this show is people together, sharing a common goal, loving each other. I don't care how many people. I don't care what they look like. I don't care anything. I care about the people. So that's my relationship spiel for our definition for this segment, right? So in this study, the participants admitted to cheating in their relationship, and they answered the question really at the root and the heart of this mystery. They answered, why do you cheat? And an analysis revealed 8 key responses or reasons why people cheat: anger, self-esteem, lack of love, low commitment, a need for variety, neglect, sexual desire, and situational or circumstantial. Those 8 key reasons that I just said, not only influenced why people cheated, but also how long they cheated, their sexual enjoyment, their emotional investment in the affair, and whether their primary relationship ended as a result. Okay? Contrary to what most people believe, Cheating is rarely about the sex itself. It's more about the emotional connection with the affair partner. This study did find that participants in relationships suffering from neglect or lack of love in their primary relationship were more likely to have a sexual affair. Okay? Around 2/3 of the participants, which is about 62%, admitted to expressing affection towards their new partner. And about the same amount, 61%, engaged in sexually explicit dialogue with them, exchanging sexy text messages, talking sexy to them, and about roughly 4 out of 10 hid these intimate conversations. And 1 in 10 said, I love you. So that's, a thing as well. Those who reported feeling less connected to their partner experienced greater emotional intimacy inside the affair. What I find very interesting is when infidelity is linked to a lack of love, meaning the individual doesn't feel love from their partners, they find that the affair experiences are more intellectually and emotionally satisfying. So, survey participants indicated that their satisfaction with sex greatly depended on the reason for the affair. So, going back to something from Justin LaMiller, when people cheat, they're more likely to do it with someone they already know as opposed to a stranger. Maybe this is because there's more opportunities for cheating, they're around them more, you see them more frequently. It could also be the fact that people cheat, they're often looking for something more than sex. Many are looking for intimacy, emotional connection, some sort of anything that they're not getting from their partner, which might be easier to get from somebody that you are friends with, right? Many people report feeling more sexually fulfilled when they cheated because of desire, lack of love, or a need in variety in their primary relationship. Guys, we can't preach it enough. Doesn't matter if you're consensual non-monogamy, if you're monogamous, if you're poly, it doesn't matter. Your relationship needs variety. It needs novelty. It needs some spice. And that, I'm not going to say that's an affair-proof, foolproof thing, but I will say that will contribute to not wanting to go outside of the marriage and find it from somebody else. Those who said that they cheated because it was a situation, like an argument with their primary partner, or maybe their primary partner cheated and it was revenge, they were far less satisfied. Most of that activity, the sexual activity, was limited to about kissing and cuddling. There wasn't many sexual intercourses throughout that. In fact, the study found that only half of the cheaters really reported having vaginal intercourse, or intercourse. I shouldn't say vaginal. Well, these were heterosexual couples studied, but intercourse, right? The reason for the infidelity is also impacted the length of the infidelity. So if the reason is strong enough, the affair will last longer, I guess is the best way to put that. Some participants stated the relationship was just a brief affair, just a brief tryst, just a sexcapade, if you will, while others were longer and had a deeper attachment. The longer affairs were reported by those who cheated because of anger, lack of love, or the need for variety. I guess the revenge part would come out of, not out of that part, out of anger, because you're angry, you want to seek revenge. Interestingly enough, those that were motivated by the situation or the circumstances, such as, you were drunk, you were overwhelmed, not thinking clearly, all of those things ended the affair much earlier than those with the emotional connection. Also, women tend to have longer affairs on average than men, but there's research that shows that men are more likely to cheat than women. So it's just, there's so much out there, but we'll save that for another show. This study also revealed that when it was all said and done, only 1/3 of the participants admitted cheating to their primary partner. What? Women, of course, were more likely to fess up to the men and say, yeah, I cheated. Those who came clean, they came clean about cheating out of anger or neglect rather than sexual desire or variety. So they were saying, I did it because I was angry. I did it because you didn't give me enough attention. So it's a hard thing to really swallow, because it's almost like they're putting the blame back on their partner. But everybody in this relationship has some contribution to the state of the relationship. So if you feel like your partner is putting it on you, what was your contribution? Own that contribution and fix it, or talk about it, or change it. Whatever you have to do. The infidelity is not your fault. Let me just go ahead and say that. It is not your fault. There can be contributing factors that played into it, but it's not your fault, right? Ladies, are you ready to take your intimacy to the next level? Head over to our website to find out about relationship, intimacy, and sex counseling.
And gentlemen, are you needing a little bit more? Join us at stephanieandfox.com to learn tips on how to communicate with that special someone and ignite that flame.
Now, let's get back to the show. Those who were cheating because of the lack of the love from their partner went on more public dates and displayed more affection towards their partner. Yeah, PDA was most common for those seeking variety and looking for a boost in their self-esteem. So situational cheaters were less likely to cheat in open. Could be because they wanted to return to their primary relationship without getting caught. They didn't care. One thing that was interesting is that people who were more likely to end their primary relationship when they cheated due to anger, lack of love, low commitment, or neglect. If the affair resulted from circumstantial reasons, then the primary couple was more likely to work through them and stay together. About 1 in 5 of the relationships in this study ended because of the affair, all right? And then the same number of couples stayed together despite finding out that their primary partner cheated. And we have the cheaters that didn't confess to their partners. And it was about 23% of these studied stayed in the marriage without telling it. Then the remaining relationships in this study broke up for non-cheating reasons. So interestingly enough, again, I love that word, interestingly enough. All of this is so interesting to me. I hope it's interesting to you guys as well. But 1 out of 10 of those people who said that they've cheated resulted in committed relationships with their affair partner. So it's not as common as it seems, people. When you cheat, you don't end up with your affair partner. It hurts everybody. So let's be honest about it, right? So while Americans, our society, our interest in and, of course, acceptance of consensual non-monogamy has greatly increased in the recent years. I don't think it's because people are more accepting of cheating and infidelity at all. I think it's because people, they seem to be growing more tolerant and accepting of sexuality, open relationships. They're far more comfortable with the idea of things being negotiated and being out in the open, and then doing it behind each other's backs, right? Can you cheat in a consensual non-monogamous relationship? Abso-freaking-lutely you can. And Dr. Eli Sheff, love her, explains that consensual non-monogamy ranges from, of course, polygamy and polyamory on the serious to long-term relationships that end in the spectrum, to open monogamous swinging, all of that. Those have more emphasis on sexual variety and less emphasis on the emotional intimacy with multiple partners with each other, right? Cheating is usually when 2 people have agreed to be sexually exclusive and 1 or more of them have stepped outside of the relationship while pretending to be monogamous or, monogamish, and lying to the partner with active manipulation and or omitting the truth, right? Even if it doesn't involve sex, consensual non-monogamy can have emotional cheating. Talking to somebody else can be categorized as cheating. Remember, we don't know what everybody categorizes cheating as. So we have to have that conversation. Emotional intimacy, all of those thoughts or feelings, they're not shared with the primary partner. That's cheating to some people, right? Again, Not all cheating in consensual non-monogamy comes in the form of a sexual or emotional contact. And even people who are quote unquote allowed to be open and see people within the negotiated boundaries, sometimes people cheat by doing things sexually that they know they shouldn't do. So, we shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's a form of distrust. That's a form of cheating. This can include anything from having penetrative sex after saying you wouldn't, failing to use a condom or some other sexual protection, having sex in a specific place that was agreed to be out of bounds, like people's beds or residence or something like that, or using specific position that the couple had decided to reserve exclusively for themselves. Cheating is a spectrum. It's what the person who's being hurt categorizes as cheating. Many times I can tell you that I've had clients come in, couples come in, and they're like, he cheated on me. And I ask, okay, well, can you tell me more about that? Or talk to me about what that looks like for you guys. Well, he kissed another girl and he was holding her hand. I had a client that almost ended a 15-year marriage because of her husband holding somebody's hand and kissing them. To me, that's not a big deal, right? But to her, it was life-shattering. So let's talk about some ways that you can, I guess the best way to call it is affair proof. I don't know if that's even a term, but counteract the affair. How can you stop an affair from happening, right? So the first thing I want to really talk about is you have to really just acknowledge that you have the ability to cheat. Everybody has the ability to cheat at some point. So you saying, oh, I would never do that, but it can happen. So you have to really know who you are, and telling yourself you may be attracted to someone, but you can't go there is similar to saying, hey, I'm going to go to this nude resort and I'm not going to get nude. You can't say that. You will do it if the opportunity presents itself. If you find yourself attracted to someone else, set limits immediately on the amount of time and the type of contact that you have with that person. You have to be honest. Also, as a couple, you need to define infidelity and the relationship boundaries together. So many people go, well, you know what? We're married, so don't cheat. What does that look like? What does cheating look like for you? Is it holding hands? Is it penetration? Is it emotional? What are your boundaries? What are your limits? Because everybody is different, and your partner deserves to know so they don't mess up. So you have to really, we can't assume that these boundaries are universal. You have to do what feels safe for you and in your relationship, right? Infidelity does not happen as a single decision, but it's a series of decisions. Honestly, the most people that I talk to who have cheated, and when they're looking back, they'll say that in retrospect, they knew exactly where they began to cross the lines. So pay attention from the beginning of your interactions with others. Are you talking about your personal life? Are you sharing information about your marriage or your spouse? Are you spending time together one-on-one that isn't related to work or a project that you're using or working on? You have to identify these things and set your boundaries. Another death trap, I call it, for infidelity is, what kind of support are others giving you? Support from a coworker or a friend who is struggling personally really changes the dynamic of their relationship and increases intimacy. This can open the door for many blurred lines, and that's where the attraction begins. Noticing early and setting limits is important if you are wanting to avoid infidelity. Also, don't assume that because you've never been attracted to a certain person before that you'll never be attracted to them in the future. Man, chemistry, our body chemistry and attraction is very mysterious. It's a very tricky thing. So don't get caught up in that. Engage in your relationship. Make your relationship a priority even during busy or stressful times. That's when you should be doing it the most. Even if it's just an hour a week to start out with. Find things that you can do alone together, without kids, without family, just you and your spouse, right? Be honest with your partner, guys. If you are trying to say something to address an issue and you don't feel heard, say that. Say, in this moment, I don't feel like you hear what I'm trying to say. And this is how it's impacting me. This is how it's going to impact our relationship. If it's really bad, guys, seek help from a counselor. That's what we do on a daily basis. We specialize in relationships. We help you find your own way. You have to be able to pay attention to whether you're beginning to lean out. And if you are, you got to speak up. You have to be honest. Another big thing that really causes people to sway towards infidelity is the bedroom. So if you have needs that aren't being met, be honest about your desires, your needs, your fantasies, your preferences. The number one indicator of a couple that's in a healthy, safe spot is they tend to turn towards each other. If you feel yourself pulling away, notice this and turn towards your partner when you're talking to them. Be honest about your need for connection or reconnecting and clarify your needs. Notice and appreciate the good qualities your partner has. It's easy to begin to frame things that aren't working well and get caught up in the, well, this is not working, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. And then you start to lean on someone for support. You have to return to your partner. You have to build that relationship intentionally. Being intentional helps you realize that the grass isn't greener on the other side. Every relationship has a laundry list of challenges. Every affair has its own sort of protective bubble, right? You have that new relationship energy. So you can't compare your primary relationship to your affair partner's relationship because that's not going to work out. You live day-to-day life with your primary partner. You see behind the curtains. You know their ups and downs. You see the ugly. But with our new person, our affair partner, you only see the good. So it's really hard in the beginning because you get mixed up in all of that, love, energy, fun. But in the end, is it really worth it? If it seems ideal or easier, you really need to check your perspective because most of the time, the grass is not greener on the other side. My final piece of advice on how to affair-proof your relationship would be to get out of the evaluation mode. If you are constantly evaluating and criticizing and constantly remembering the bad stuff, then of course that affair partner is going to look really good in compared to your primary partner. Hold space for awareness of all of the good aspects in your relationship and the person you love. It's hard to feel grounded when you're always questioning everything. Be able to notice some things that maybe have become invisible over time. Remember when you were first in that new relationship energy with your partner, what did you guys like to do to explore things? Build that deep love map, that deep knowledge of one another, and maybe try some activities that the other person enjoys. Putting yourself out there will help you repair, maintain, and avoid potential situations of infidelity in the future. When we're being drawn into a relationship, we feel the comfort or the connection or the excitement. I like to call it new relationship energy. And we think about the passion or how we want to try on this new life. We don't stop to think about what it's going to be like when the infidelity comes to light. And it does. What's done in the dark comes to light. We don't think about our partner crying in my office. We don't think about them trembling in the closet. We look at the faces of our children and have to tell them that we're divorcing because I messed up, I cheated. The impact on the extended families. Run that movie all the way through to the end. How does it affect your friends, your coworkers? The shame and guilt that you're going to experience. Seeing yourself sitting on the sofa, having to explain text messages, pictures, the sex, the lies, the betrayal. How does that feel for you? See yourself sitting in that guilt, that regret, that shame. Is this what you really wanted long term? Or will the adrenaline and the excitement pass with time? That's the question you have to really ask yourself. The pain of infidelity is so intense. I don't necessarily like how to catch, quote unquote, a cheater. However, there are some things that you can do And that's what Fox is going to talk about. What can you do to identify if your partner is cheating, and what steps do you decide to do from there? If you found out that your partner is cheating, get into couples therapy. Find a good therapist that works with your needs. Reach out. Get on our website. You can go to stephanieandfox.com. We have so many resources on there. If you don't find what you're looking for, send me an email. I will find what you need, if you need it, when you need it, and how you need it, because this is important to me. Your relationship is important to me because you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be healthy, and you deserve to live the life that you design the way you design it. While I absolutely do not feel that it's possible for you to, quote unquote, affair-proof your marriage, there are ways that you can help improve the chances of it not happening. Keeping your relationship safe and being intentional can protect you and your partner from the pain of infidelity. Being intentional in your words, being intentional in your activities together, being intentional just overall. You have to live your relationship, not let your relationship just live itself. Because if you do, that's when shit happens. So if you, like I said, have found yourself in an infidelity situation, you have to heal intentionally, you and the couple. It comes as a package. One is not more important than the other. Whew, that's such a heavy topic, guys. So coming up next, Fox is going to tell you how to identify if your partner is cheating and some things that you can look for. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys next week.
Thanks, babe. And I hope that really helped a lot of you understand the background science and the forethought behind those that decide that they want to be dishonest and cheat. Now, I'm going to start my segment off a little differently than I normally do because we talk a lot about Stephanie and I's background in mental health. But what we really haven't done is talk about my expertise and background in security, law enforcement, military, reconnaissance, and some other fields that I've been involved with. So I was a Master at Arms in the Navy, which is a military police officer, for all simplified terms. I worked with Spec War, which is special warfare. I did a lot of security management, reconnaissance and anti-reconnaissance, and I also was involved with a lot of surveillance and counter-surveillance type ordeals. Now, after the military, I got into banking. What does banking have to do with what we're talking about today? Well, I was a licensed business banker. I was licensed with NASDAQ and the SEC, but I dove into forensics accounting and got really good at following the numbers. For those of you that aren't aware of what forensic accounting is, basically I was licensed to go into people's accounts, find the money, trace the money, track the money, and find out where it was coming from. And that's all I'm going to say about that without giving away any trade secrets. So after that, I dabbled with marketing and websites and some other stuff, trying to find out, how do I become a big boy? What do I want to do now that I'm not in the military? So I decided that I was bored with a daily suit and tie job, so I went ahead and I became a security contractor and went back overseas and did a lot of security contracting. After that, I went into federal law enforcement. And I worked for the Department of Defense, I worked for Homeland Security, and then I worked for the Department of the VA, primarily doing investigations as a federal investigator. But I was a federal police officer for a short time. So I have also worked for a couple different contract security groups doing surveillance and counter-surveillance within various theaters for various different circumstances. So that's kind of my overall background in how I know what I know and how I'm able to speak to this topic. So enough with that boring stuff. I'm going to kind of jump right into it. This is not a fun topic for anyone to discuss, but we're hoping with today's show that you get an overall sense of why it happens, how to deter it, and how to spot it happening in the first place, because nobody is a fan of anyone that is lying to them, cheating, and hurting them. I mean, I wouldn't want those type of things done to me. So let's go ahead and jump right into the very first thing. None of these are in chronological order because everyone's different. Everyone's behavior and characteristics are different, and everyone determines their path, I guess, as someone that's going to cheat differently. So there's no perfect way, there's no one way. I'm sure there's a lot more that other people can bring up that I'm not going to bring up today. I'm just going to bring up the top 5, okay? So the first one is your spouse, lover, whatever you want to call them, partner, begins to start lying a lot about little things, little white lies that don't make any sense. They wouldn't ruin your relationship. And they're not just doing it with you. You notice that they're doing it with everyone around them. Okay? So a primary example of that is, let's say that your partner is talking to a friend. And let's just say your house is worth $300,000. And for some reason, your friend decides to tell, or your partner decides to tell your friend that your house is worth $500,000. Okay? Now, could this be simply because they're embarrassed and that other individual has more money than they do? That's possible. Could it be because they're just trying to look bigger than they are? That's also another possibility. But what the issue is, they're deciding to cognitively choose to tell a white lie. Now, is a white lie here and there indicative of a cheater? Not at all. There's many reasons why people do little white lies. Even I have done white lies, in the pursuit of not hurting someone's feelings on a subject that really wasn't that important. I will absolutely tell a white lie, and I will continue to do so for that pursuit only. But when they are constantly becoming or showing behaviors of a habitual liar, that is when a red flag should go up. So when they're constantly, exaggerating, changing the story around, ad-libbing on purpose with intention. Again, this is all based off intention, by the way. So this does not mean somebody per se with a TBI or cognitive memory disorder or dysphoria or time lapse or many other mental or health-based issues, right? We're not talking about those people. We're talking about someone who cognitively and with intent is constantly telling white lies to not just you, but to everybody. What's the purpose of that? Okay. The first thing I would do if you realize that this is occurring is I would challenge my partner. Now, how you challenge them is up to you. Some people are going to go in there guns blazing. Why are you a liar? What's the purpose of this? This is not okay with me. This is morally wrong. Okay. Others are going to be very passive aggressive. Like, hey, I noticed you were lying. I'm not exactly okay with that, but I have your back no matter what. Let's talk about it. And then some people are going to be extremely passive, and they're just not going to address the issue, which I don't recommend. So if you catch your partner doing this, I definitely recommend that you challenge them on the issue in any way you feel necessary, but make sure you're willing to hear them out, because just because they're doing it doesn't mean that they're a cheater, okay? So the second one is they become defensive over almost everything. And I do mean almost everything, okay? Simple things like, hey, hun, why'd you leave the stove on? Well, I didn't leave the stove on. That was you. Or, hey, can you park your car over to the right a little bit more so I can open my door more? Oh, I parked just fine, right? These types of immediate defensive interactions and responses from somebody, they could be a couple different things. The person can be depressed and they feel attacked So they feel that they're defending themselves. But is their defense adequate, right? And does it make sense? So you might have the best intention towards your partner by asking whatever you're asking them, but for some reason they assume that you're trying to attack them or catch them in a lie or control them or what have you. This type of behavior can also be a red flag. So what do we do about that, right? You can try and change the way that you interact with your partner, or try and change the way you describe things to them or respond to them. And that would probably be the first thing that I would recommend. But if it continues constantly and it's not changing, that is a red flag. Why are they getting defensive? Most people that get defensive inappropriately or disproportionately, their response comes from guilt or the fear that they're going to be caught. Okay? Another common thing with this is if they're constantly saying, well, you should just trust me. You should just trust me. Okay? You may look at trust different than I do, but in my opinion, trust is earned. It is not just given. I don't just meet a stranger off the street, decide to befriend them over time, and then day 1 or 2 of our friendship decide to just give them my absolute trust. I give them the initial respect as a person and a human being and as an individual, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to let them into the deepest, darkest secrets of my life, my family, or my home, because I don't know you yet. And my personal recommendation is you do the same. Make people earn your trust, right? Make them earn deeper respect as well. I give everyone surface respect, but I pay attention to things that they say, things they do, because I'm trying to determine, are they there to hurt me and my family and my loved ones, or are they exactly who they say they are, and I can start giving them more trust and more respect. Okay? So let's talk about a pretty heavy topic, gaslighting. All right? Sometimes, and particularly when it comes to someone that's cheating or someone that's controlling, there's a lot of interaction that is indicative of your partner gaslighting you. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to tell you the simplified definition within psychology, and this comes from psychologytoday.com. So, gaslighting is an insidious form of manipulation and psychological control. A lot of victims of gaslighting are deliberately and systematically fed false information. Okay? So, how does gaslighting begin? Well, first you have to have a relationship with an individual, any type of relationship. It doesn't have to be romantic, okay? And the person that's gaslighting you, they might start off very slowly. They may praise you a lot. They may, confide in you a lot. They may show you a lot of personal attention, whether it's intimacy or just established friendship, okay? They quickly trust you deeply, fast, normally with an unrealistic way or point of view, okay? And what I mean by that is within week 1, you've seen their finances, they've talked to you about mom and dad, they've dove into the deepest, darkest circles of their life, and, that is not a common experience. That's not a common interaction for most people. That's not to say that there aren't people out there that fall quick, that trust quick, and that interact and are just that wide open, because there are. However, this is an established technique from people that gaslight. It's a tactic. It's known as what they call love bombing. Okay? And the more quickly you become immersed or enamored with this manipulation, the faster the gaslighting begins. All right? So Here's some examples really of what gaslighting is. It's when an abuser tries to control a victim by twisting their sense of reality. So for instance, earlier I said, hey hun, can you turn off the stove? You left it on. And my partner responds with, "What? That wasn't me, that was you, babe. Don't you remember? You were going to make a sandwich." And then for some reason I start to go, well, darn, they love me. Why would they lie to me? Is that true? Is that not true? And my own sense of reality becomes warped because I trust this person wholeheartedly. So why would they lie to me? So maybe I'm going crazy. Or maybe I'm mentally unfit or too sensitive, or maybe my memory is bad, or a lot of other things that people that gaslight and manipulate try and convince their survivors of. Okay? So these are things to look out for. Gaslighting is probably one of the biggest red flags out there possible. Don't think you're going crazy. Do not allow someone to control your sense of reality or things you know to be true. It becomes a very slippery and dangerous slope. All right? So another thing is, number 4, your partner or friend or whoever is deciding to cheat, right? They accuse you of cheating themselves. They're constantly worried that you're out there doing something you're not. They question everything you do. They want to see your phone constantly. They're going through your stuff, okay? The reason this happens is because they know what they're doing, so why wouldn't you be doing it to them? And that is their mind frame. I'm cheating, so my partner must be cheating as well. Well, again, it's a sense warped of reality. It doesn't have to make sense. It's reality versus guilt is what that basis is found off of, okay? So if you know you're not cheating and you're doing nothing to provide, your behaviors are not indicative of a cheater, and when your spouse or partner says, "Hey, can I see your phone?" You're like, "Sure, here you go." Or they have your passcode, or you guys have a joint piece of paper somewhere, or hopefully it's not on a piece of paper. Hopefully you're using a security app or something that maintains your passwords. But you're open, your entire life is open to your partner, and they're still accusing you, and none of your behaviors are indicative of cheating. That is a red flag. Now, does that mean that they're cheating necessarily? No. Maybe they have a lot of past trauma. Maybe they're dealing with stuff themselves. Maybe that's just psychologically ingrained in them, or ingrained, in their brain to always think negative. Okay? It's up to you to hold that discussion with your partner and decide what is it? Is it the latter, or is it the fact that they're cheating? Okay? All right, so number 5. And I know I said we're only going to do 5, but I'm actually going to add a couple in extra. Social media. Social media is 100% at this current time the way that people connect and cheaters find people to cheat with. Dating apps are also considered social media. It's on an app, it's on a platform, you have a profile, and you connect with other people. That is the basis of what social media is. So when I say social media, I'm also talking about dating apps. If you find your spouse on a dating app, and this is not a discussion, you guys aren't in a non-monogamous relationship or an open relationship, that is a red flag. The excuse of, "Oh, I forgot about that profile, I forgot to delete it, I haven't touched it in forever, I have it just in case our relationship goes bad and I want to date again." Okay, these could all be valid excuses or reasons, but are they really? I had a dating app as soon as Stephanie and I started dating, and I realized that we were going to go long term. I deleted it. I deleted the app and I got rid of my profile because why do I need it again? If my current mental state is this is a solid relationship and I'm going to do nothing to hurt this person, why do I need access to a dating app? Now, granted, Stephanie and I are in a non-monogamous relationship and we both have dating apps, but we both have access to each other's dating apps. So if you're in that type of situation where you're not monogamous and you share each other intimately with others, then think of this.
Ladies, are you ready to take your intimacy to the next level? Head over to our website to find out about relationship, intimacy, and sex counseling.
And gentlemen, are you needing a little bit more? Join us at stephanieandfox.com to learn tips on how to communicate with that special someone and ignite that flame.
Now, let's get back to the show.
If your partner doesn't allow you to have access to that app or the messages or the interactions with the people that they're sleeping with or dating, whatever it is that you're doing, why? Why is that? Why you as the primary partner should you not be allowed to go in and look at everything that's going on? Now, some of you are going to push back on that statement and go, because that's our rules and that's our boundaries and we're okay with that. Great. I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to those that know that their partner is hiding things or doesn't allow them to see things intentionally. Okay. For those of you that are monogamous, the rules are a little bit different, but the frame of mind is the same. Why does your partner have a dating app in the first place? Why haven't they deleted that? Okay. These are questions you want to ask them. Only you can determine their response. Nor Stephanie or I understand your relationship. We're not involved in your relationship, okay? And most likely we don't really know you. You know, it takes about a year or two for us to really, really identify and understand clients to a certain extent in order for us to go, hey, we're going to start calling you on your bullshit. Now, I say a year or two, but we have other clients that within 3 to 6 months because they're just so open. But it takes you being open for us to understand you. And it should be vice versa, and the same with your partner. Now, cell phones. Cell phones have a lot of activity on them. You can delete messages, you can hide them, you can have hidden apps, you can have secret vaults, you can have all these things, okay? If you are not cheating, or if you think someone is cheating, first address it with them, please. Don't just run out and go buy a spy app and download it on their phone or start going into their Google history or, you know, all that kind of stuff. Everyone has the right to a certain amount of privacy. As open as Stephanie and I are, I don't want to know what she talks about with her girlfriends, especially when she's upset with me. That's her personal time, her personal relationships, and her personal conversations to vent. And it's perfectly healthy. I get to vent as well, and she doesn't ask me and go through my stuff, you know. I have never, but if I ever went through Stephanie's phone, there are certain people I know that I would never look at those conversations because it's none of my business. But then again, we have a very concrete relationship, and we talk about everything. We probably exhaust ourselves and over talk each other. But we know exactly where each other are coming from, and we know how we feel on every single topic when it comes up, because we just word vomit and express our feelings, and then we work through them if there's an issue there, okay? However, if you've had the conversations and there's multiple red flags, this is probably the right time to go, hey, if you're not cheating or you're not doing something you're not supposed to, do I have permission to download this app on your phone? Ask them permission first. If they say, sure, no problem, do what you got to do, and they allow you to do it, well, that's probably a tall tale sign that it's possible you're mistaken. It's also possible that they're familiar with that app, or they're going to research it and learn how to get around it. So be careful with what spy apps you purchase or, download, some are really, really good. Some are absolutely terrible. And the last thing you want to do is accuse your spouse or partner of something that they're absolutely not doing, because you will create more damage than you will the latter, okay? So some things you can do. Look for deleted stuff. On a cell phone, all it is a computer. That's what a cell phone is. And it allows you to make phone calls. Nothing is ever truly deleted off a cell phone. Ever. It's all stored within memory. And if you know how to retrieve that memory and decode certain things, you can get access to the entire history of that phone back from the manufacturer date of when that microchip was completed. Talk to hackers, talk to companies that do this for a living, talk to private investigators if this is what you really think, okay? If your partner tells you, no, I'm not okay if you do that, ask them why. Why aren't you okay with that? There are valid reasons why some people would say no. For instance, my wife. We have Spruce Health. Spruce Health is our online platform that we utilize for our clients. It's HIPAA compliant. Even though we both own this company equally, there is certain information that unless I'm going to cross over to help another client with her that is attached to her and her only, I have no business knowing. And to stay HIPAA compliant, I can't download a spy app onto her phone. I can get her in a lot of trouble. She can lose her license. I can lose my board certification. So there are reasons why people would say no. So talk to them, find out why. If your spouse is in a professional license setting like that, it is a good possibility that they cannot have stuff like that on their cell phone. Okay? So find an alternative way to do business. Look at people's Google history or whatever search engine you use, right? Yahoo, whatever, doesn't matter, right? And I say whatever because I literally went blank for a second and couldn't think of any of the other, like Firefox or Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome. Now it's coming to me. That happens to me. Sometimes I go blank, and that just took place. And so we're just going to go along this ride with me. Look into the history. Look for things that are deleted. Okay. If their history only shows YouTube, what's the likelihood that that's the only reason they use their cell phone or go onto a search engine? That's very unlikely, right? In the day of the digital World Wide Web and digital information, we pretty much use the internet for everything that we do. Everything. So consider that. Then there's the typical Hollywood-based things that happen. He or she comes home with lipstick on their collar or smelling like cologne or perfume, or they say they're going to go do a spa day, but they're dressing up to the nine, or they're going to go to the gym and they don't normally wear makeup to the gym, but now they're wearing makeup and perfume and making sure their hair looks cute. Now, does that necessarily mean they're cheating? No. Maybe they found a newfound confidence and they don't want to lose it. Maybe they feel the opposite and they want to make themselves feel better. This is why conversations and communications are key to all of this. Okay. On our website, we have under resources, we have a bunch of different blogs that are based off relationships, intimacy, and sex education. One of them is called I Statements. I highly encourage you to watch that video. This is all about communication, how to better communicate with your partner, how to equally and respectfully communicate with your partner, okay? Just because there's a bunch of red flags does not necessarily mean that someone is cheating. It also doesn't mean that they're not. But until you address the situation in person and have a conversation, how do you know? Obviously, aside from you saw a video, you directly caught them, they told you they were cheating. Somebody called you and said, hey, I'm sleeping with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, what have you. And even then, if someone contacts you and says this, is it real? Are they just trying to start trouble? Or is it legitimate, right? You have the right to be happy. You have the right to feel secure in your relationship. And you have the right to be loved the way you want to be loved. So make sure that that is happening 100% across the board. If your partner is not providing that for you, challenge them on it and express your desire or need for further stimulation. If you think they're cheating, express that. Maybe it's a simple lack of misunderstanding. Maybe it's a lack of attention. Maybe they themselves feel a certain way and it's being shown and coming up with behaviors and characteristics on them. Or maybe they're just cheating on you. This is for you to determine, okay? Social media sites, real quick. On social media, I would look at the messenger. I would look at the type of people they are friends with. I would look at the interaction, comments they make, and things they post. I wouldn't grab onto one particular thing unless there's a direct message that say, hey, let's meet at 7 p.m. and we're going to fuck. Okay, that's pretty direct, and now you've caught them red-handed. But take their overall social media presence and paint a picture with it. And don't paint a picture with an agenda. Be very, very careful with that. I can tell you, as an investigator, one of the biggest things we have to do is we have to take our own personality, our own agenda, our own ideologies, and we have to remove them from an investigation. And we have to look at that investigation in a very black and white manner with very little gray areas, or we tend to allow our own assumptions, our own, personality traits, our own ideologies to seep into that investigation. And when we do that, we taint the investigation. So act the same way. Try and remain neutral. Look at your investigation as a professional job. Remove the personalness from it and do your investigation from there. That's the best way to determine, A, are you properly looking at things correctly? And B, is your spouse cheating in your opinion or not? If they are, challenge them. If they're not, I would bring it up to them anyway and just be honest and go, hey, recently I saw this type of behavior. You were doing these type of things. It made me think you were cheating. I looked into it. You're not. But let's try and change these patterns so I don't think this again, or I don't feel this way, or what have you. Okay? At the end of the day, it's up to you to determine what all this means for you. There's many other tactics out there to determine if your spouse or partner is cheating on you. There's many other ways to determine and figure out if this is what they're doing or if this is what they're not. I personally recommend you try and use a clear head. Take emotion out of the ballgame. I know that's very hard to do. Again, this is why it's just a recommendation. I'm not saying you have to. It's a very hard thing to do, but it's the best technique. And then have a conversation with them. Just talk to them and be honest about what you're thinking and how you feel. So I hope today's show has helped you guys. I know this is not a topic that many people would discuss or want to discuss. But that's kind of what I love about Stephanie and I is we talk about everything and we're not afraid of any topic, period. If it's race related, we'll talk about it. If it's sexually related, we'll talk about it. If dating and marriage and non-monogamy and monogamy as a whole doesn't like the topic, oh well, we're going to talk about it, okay? We're not afraid of any topic whatsoever. Here's what I challenge you guys on. What kind of show would you like to hear? What topics haven't we discussed in our 2 seasons that you want to hear us talk about? Is it more personal? Is it more professional? What professionals would you like us to interview? You can go onto our website, stephanieandfox.com. You can send us a message. You can either go on our podcast page, or you can just go to our contact page and contact us directly, or just at the bottom of the website is all of our contact information. Send us what you would like to hear. What are you interested in? What are you lacking knowledge in that we think or that you think we could help you with? you might stir up a topic that we're unaware of, and then we love that because then we go and find the professionals that are expertise, right? They're experts in that field, and we get to learn along with you. And then we disseminate that information. So I hope that today's show has helped. I know some of you probably didn't listen to the show. I know some of you absolutely have. If you have any further questions, please reach out to us. Everyone deserves to be happy, period.
Thank you for listening to our show. And remember, you are not in this alone, and we are here to help.
You can check us out at stephanieandfox.com and subscribe to all of our social media accounts to get free resources about evolving your intimacy.
Have a good night.
Have a good one.